Well, you could be forgiven for thinking that Alexander's impact had peaked here in these mountains. But his conquests did not stop here, of course. They extended several thousand more miles eastwards to India, where his arrival triggered changes as dramatic as these, but in the mind. And this also applied down here to the south in the homeland of Judaism, where Alexander's influence brought about a transformation in Jewish attitudes in the years leading up to the birth of Christ. This assimilation of ideas as a result of Alexander resulted in the whole of the known world becoming one melting pot of religious ideas. Current research is now revealing for the first time that remarkably Alexander affected the religions of India, Islam and early Christianity, and key aspects of Judaism. A new sort of Jewish leader emerged, a teacher or rabbi, based on the idea of philosophical schools. Here by the burning bush is the great Jewish hero Moses, now in a robe. Thousands of miles to the east, another teacher of similar ideas was about to get the Alexander treatment.
The features of Buddhism before Alexander, essentially, the Buddha was a philosophical figure rather similar to Plato or Socrates. He had not emerged as a great superman, a godlike figure. And in the first 2 centuries AD, roughly speaking, Buddhism undergoes a major transformation where the Buddha is elevated from being a simple human being into a superman, or you could say a god in some sense. So these statues come from the part of India which Alexander conquered and which subsequently retained its connections with the Western world. So figures there typically show the Buddha with a halo and with robes. The same things happen in Hinduism at roughly the same time. Images begin to be produced which show Hindu deities holding the weapons and, for example, a club, all these things that are connected with Heracles. We don't know the direct impact of Alexander as an individual on these things. We know that Alexander assumed divine characteristics as a result of his conquest of Egypt and various parts of Asia. And it seems to have been a groundswell of change in religious attitudes, this need for some sort of superhuman being, some sort of super person who could be a savior for mankind.
A 1,000 years after the death of Alexander, Muhammad, a prophet from the Arabian Peninsula, founded the religion of Islam. Unlike Hinduism and Buddhism, the first generations of Muslims felt driven to expand the Islamic world by the sword, and from its beginnings at Mecca, Islam quickly won a vast holy empire, as big in fact as its Roman predecessor. The impressive Arab citadel in Cairo, containing the magnificent Muhammad Ali Mosque, emphasizes the sophistication and military might of Islam. Research by historians is bringing to light an important source of inspiration for their military conquests. Early Arab writings suggest that the precedent they were following in this armed expansion of God's kingdom on earth was none other than Alexander the Great, whom they saw as a military genius, but conquering for God's glory, not his own.
The first appearance of Alexander in Arabic literature is in fact in the Quran. Alexander is, of course, not normally known by the name of Alexander in the Quran and in the other early Arabic writings. The name he's given is Dhul Qarnayn, which means the two-horned one in Arabic. That's a name that he acquires from the representations of him where he is shown with the ram's horns. This is a unique image. It represents Alexander the Great visiting the Kaaba at Mecca, the holy black stone which stands at the center of the most holy city of the Islamic world. No image could express more clearly how seriously Alexander was taken by Muslim thinkers and writers.
So, amazingly, it seems that many of the world's faiths as we know them today owe much to Alexander's legacy.